Okay, so that's enough of you to say, please go to the informational meetings. Okay, you don't have to be 100% sure that you want to do full IB to go to the meetings, because what we don't want to have happen is that you miss all those meetings given by the IB coordinator, and then you come and see your counselor and you say, yeah, I have some IB questions. We can answer the questions, but we can't answer the questions the same way that Ms. C can answer those questions. So if you have any inkling of interest, please attend those meetings. Okay.
And I think what we will do today is we'll show you, if you're planning on full IB, where to go to on the course request form. Encourage you to go to the meeting on Thursday night to see Ms. Sieg. If you change your mind, you can go back and edit your course request form and do the IB one.
He's got it.
So I think we're going to start by just showing you where to go, showing you where it is, what's on that. Encourage you to go to the meeting on Thursday. If you change your mind, we'll show you how you can go back and you can edit your course request form and fill out the IB version of that rather than the standard Rising Junior course requests, electronic course requests.
All right. So good afternoon. It's good to see all of you. This is a nice full class. So what we're doing today is different than what we're going to be doing this evening. If they haven't already said that, please plan on attending the webinars for you and your parents. In fact, you've got a handout in front of you, right? And this is giving you a timeline of sorts, okay? The first thing you're going to notice is today's date, parent information for junior registration. That should say parent and student. We want you to both watch, listen in. It will be recorded. So that way, if you can't attend tonight, you have an opportunity, your parent has an opportunity to hear it again. However, the nice thing about seeing it live is that you get to ask what? Questions. Yeah. So if you can attend live, that means you can get a lot of questions answered that way. Okay. The second thing you're going to see is February 17th is a date. Now, before we leave you today, each one of you is going to select your classes for junior year. You're all rising juniors, and you're going to actually select and submit your coursework for junior year. However, you can edit that because we don't want you just to select today and then just, go about your life. We want you to ask questions, talk it over with your parents. So that's the absolute deadline to make changes. Okay. You're going to notice also a grid at the bottom that says registration meetings with counselors. That is because after today, after the 17th, you're still going to have a one-on-one meeting with your counselor through your social science class. So take a look at the bottom list and see where your history class is located. Okay.
I think that's
You've got the wrong
one.
There you go. Okay. Based on your history teacher, that's the date that you're going to actually meet with your counselor. Okay. Your history class is going to come through the library.
All of them have the wrong one.
Yeah, we have somebody grabbed the wrong class. 2024.
Okay.
We're promoting you.
So what you guys need to do, just very, very quietly.
I'm going to go grab them.
I have them here. I brought them. Yeah. So don't even worry about it. Just leave that one on your desk. We'll collect it afterwards so we don't have a lot of commotion. But you're going to get a new one. Sorry about that. The new one actually shows you the correct information. So based on who your history teacher is, that's the date that your class is going to come through the library to meet with your counselor. You're going to do a credit check, okay? And we've done this with you since El Roble. So that's when we talk to you about what you're taking. We confirm what you've selected. So even though you're making your selections now, we're going to meet with you one-on-one, give you a copy of your transcript so you can see all your grades so far, talk to you about your plans for the future, and then we'll confirm the courses that you're selecting today, okay? And we'll make changes if we need to at that time. Does that make sense, what the timeline is for things? All right. So with that said, if you do not already have your iPads out.
And before we get to that, let's just take one quick minute because I see some of you already have your phones out, but that's okay because we're going to ask you to take your phones out and sign up for the Remind.
Yes.
Because it's important that you're on the Remind because you get a lot of valuable information from the guidance office. If you're on the Remind, you probably would have known that we were coming here. I'm sure you knew already, but your parents would know about the meeting tonight. But again, those are some of those messages that go out via Remind that's important for you to have. So if you text to this number here,
81010.
Yes, 81010, and you're going to be at CHS Grad 25. It's on your sheet there, at CHS Grad 25. So go ahead and text. If you're not part of that, go ahead and get that done now. We'll give you about 30 seconds.
Okay. And please don't ignore the reminds that you get. Part of adulting is kind of knowing how to decipher information. Okay, it's not ignoring the information, but knowing how to filter it. So you may get a lot of things, a lot of notifications for different things, but in the midst of all of those notifications are things that are really time sensitive, things that you don't want to miss because they could be opportunities. Next year, they could be things that are related to scholarships. We use Remind a lot, okay? So get in the habit of checking it to see where it fits into what you need to know.
All right.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right.
So
Now,
take your iPads out. I know that was the next set of instructions. I know it's 6th period, so hopefully they're still fully charged.
so what we're going to do is we're going to walk you through the counseling department webpage on the CHS website, okay? If you know how to navigate this, it's going to make the next 10 days a lot easier as you're making your edits to your course selections. So we want to point out a few things on the website that you need to know. So the first thing is we need to make sure that you're on the CHS website. Some students open it up and it goes directly to the CUSD website, but we want to be on the CHS website, okay? Now for us, in the banner up here, we see a counseling link. For you, it might be those 3 little bars. I always say the little hamburger on the right-hand side in the upper right. And if you click on that, that might be what takes you to the counseling department, okay? You're going to want to open that up. Okay.
Yep. You click counseling, CHS counseling department. After you click counseling, you're going to get this drop down and you click CHS counseling department.
Okay. When you get here, it should look like this. Everybody with us so far? No? If your neighbor's having trouble, it's okay to help. I want to make sure everybody's in the right spot. Okay. High School website. Hold on.
All right. As he's getting logged in, a couple of things just to keep you in mind so that you know how to maneuver this site here. On the left-hand side, it's important to know who your counselor is, all right? I'm assuming by 10th grade you might, but some of us might know, so it might not. It's important to know who your counselor is and how to access your counselor. Over here is the alpha breakdown of counselors. Right next to that is the link directly to their email. I know for me, most of the time, it's busy in the guidance office. The easiest way to get in contact with me if you have a quick question is through email or during lunch. We're open to see students during lunch for any quick question, but if it's something longer than that, or if you need to schedule an appointment, the quickest way to kind of initiate that is through email. And you can just go quickly click on the link, send your email, and you hope to get we hope to respond back to students within the day from receiving emails, but that's the quickest and the easiest way to get in contact with your counselor if you have any questions.
If you haven't met your counselor yet, remember I said that each of you are going to meet your counselor through your credit check, through your history class, okay? So the other thing we want to point your attention to, and this is probably where we can go to course selection. So on the right-hand side, you'll see course selection, and you're going to click on that, and that's going to take you to this page, okay? Now this is going to be kind of like your lifeline as you're navigating the registration process because you've got a lot of details here. One of those details is the actual link, Rising Junior webinar. So again, you are Rising Juniors. Don't click on the sophomore one. That's not until Thursday night, I think. But tonight is for you. The webinar link is right there. So when you get home, you can help your parent navigate to where to find that link, okay? We've got some information about when things are happening. So again, for you, we're in your classes today, webinars tonight, course selection closes, and then the meetings with your counselor are listed over here, okay? Let's take our attention to the right-hand side where it says course selection links. One of the first things we want to point out to you is that top box, graduation and college requirements comparison. Go ahead and click on that so that we can point out to you what we're looking for or what we're trying to help you navigate. Now, this looks like a lot of information, but the good news is each of you has a counselor. So we are in charge of making sure that you're meeting those requirements, okay? Help your neighbor if they can't navigate to that part of to that link, all right? So we're navigating to make sure that each of you are meeting your grad requirements. That's the first column. This tells you everything that you need in order to graduate from CHS. This middle column is a little bit different. This is UC CSU minimum admission requirements. That means if you're looking to go to a four-year college, a Cal State or UC or a private college, we want to make sure you're meeting those requirements because there's a little bit of a difference. This column, you got to get a D or higher. This column, C's or better. And depending on the school that you're looking for, we really want you to get A's and B's. For who in here is a student athlete? Who's thinking of doing sports at the college level? Few of you, okay. So for those students, we're also keeping track of the NC2A requirements. That means you're going to be playing your sport at the collegiate level. We got to make sure that you're in the right type of classes to fulfill those requirements also. The good news is your counselor is keeping track of all this. It's good for you to understand it so that you can listen to and follow our advisement, but we're keeping track of this so you don't have to guess whether you're in the right classes or not. That's our job. What's your job? To do well in your classes. If we're telling you what you need to take to meet your goals, then we have to rely on you to get the help that you need, ask questions, seek support as needed so that you can do well in those classes, okay?
Part of the process when you come through the library and we're meeting with you via your social science course, we will have a sheet that looks very similar to this and it will be blank. So we'll have all the requirements and there will be little check boxes. Each semester that goes through, when you get final grades, we update this individually for every student in here. And we keep track of this over the 4 years that you're here. You're going to be introduced to this sheet for the first time that you come, and it will have 3 semesters worth of completion for you. Your 9th grade year, your first semester of your sophomore year, and you can see how you're progressing with the high school graduation requirements, with the A through G requirements. And if you inform us that you are a prospective NCAA athlete, you'll see how you're progressing through the NCAA requirements as well. And you will meet individually with your counselor once your sophomore year, at least once your junior year, and multiple times your senior year to make sure that you're staying on track with this and you're fulfilling what is your post-secondary plan on that.
That's called a credit check. And so we are always making sure that you know exactly what you need. All right. All right. So let's go ahead and go back to the counseling page. And the other thing you're going to see is, and you don't need to open it, it says a course description booklet. We're not going to open that because it's a very long document. It takes a little while to open up. But on your own, if you ever have questions about what would a person do in AP Bio, or what's the content of a certain math course, the course description book has a list of all of the classes that we offer and a description of those courses, okay? But we also have something that's a little easier for you to access, and that's the CHS electives option. Let's go ahead and open that so you can see what that looks like. Because as juniors, the nice thing is you guys get to make more choices. Okay, freshman and sophomore year, we kind of tell you what to do. By your junior year, you get to choose a lot more. So it's good for you to know how to make your choices based on what does that class cover. So this is an electives grid. It shows you the different electives that we offer next year, along with a description of those courses. So you don't have to do the guesswork about what do I learn in geography? What would I be doing in history of rock and roll? It's all listed right there. When you meet with your counselor one-on-one, we want that conversation to be less about, tell me about this class, tell me about that class. You can find that out on your own. We want the conversation to be meaningful so that we can talk about your goals, your plans, and things that we're going to recommend for you to take along the way, all right? So a couple of things I want to point out with this chart is, notice where it says college credits, okay? Now, there are some classes that have noted, and I think, let's see, yeah, this is a good spot. You'll notice that some say Citrus College dual enrollment, and some say by exam. That means these are courses that if you take them and either pass an exam or take that course, that you actually get college credit. That means as a high school student, over the next 2 years, you could be earning college credit while you're working on finishing up your high school diploma, okay? That's a pretty good deal when you think about it, because that means those are courses that you get to take for free. Those are college credits that you're earning without having to pay for them. We have a really good relationship with Citrus College. They're a kind of a feeder school for us. And that means they partner with us. And year after year, they've added more and more classes that they consider dual enrollment. So in other words, History 1, let's take History 160, okay? History of Women. That's a class that's taught here at CHS. It's a Citrus College class. It's taught here at CHS by, Miss Arboleda? And so it's a CHS teacher who's teaching a Citrus College class, giving you 10 CHS credits, 3 or 4 college units that will transfer with you when you graduate from high school. Okay, not a bad deal at all. So it's not common for 10th graders to have dual enrollment. Are there any students who have a dual enrollment class right now?
Anyone in the counseling 160?
No? Okay. So there are some of your peers who may also already be taking some of these classes. The classes that are by exam, those are going to be your IB or any AP courses. So like IB psychology. Can you scroll a little bit just to see one of the AP courses?
At the top should be. Yep.
Okay. AP 2D art and design. That says by exam. So that means that's an AP course that if you take the course and in May, when they offer the AP exam, you take and pass the exam, that's another way to get college credit. Okay, so it's a high school course, but if you pass the exam, you can get college credit for it. So this is going to be open to you now that you're moving into your junior year. So it's kind of exciting. A lot of our juniors and seniors will take advantage of some of these electives. Okay.
So I know we're going to be asking you to choose electives today, but keep in mind, you can go back and you can edit this course request as many times as you want. So that'll be a great time to start looking through some of these elective options to make sure that you're finding a course that you're really going to enjoy, because you're going to be in it for 32 weeks. And there might be a second level to that course that you can take next or the following year as a senior. So you want to really connect and enjoy. And we offer a ton of them, a ton of options for you.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go back to our main page here. And you will also notice there's a link that says auditions and interviews. So you'll notice that some of our electives are courses that require you to audition. Maybe it's a higher level choir. Maybe it's something like yearbook or broadcasting. Okay, these are courses that you would have to do an extra step. So let's just click on it really quickly so they can take a look at what it looks like. And you'll see that if that's one of the classes that you're wanting to consider, just make sure that you note what you have to do in order to be eligible for that class. So if you make that selection on your course contract that you want to take that class, we also want to make sure that you've done the steps to audition or apply or whatever you need to do. And the teacher who is in charge of that, their email address is listed right there, so you can simply email them if you have questions, but they give you some indication of what you need to do in order to audition, okay? All right, let's move out of that and get to the good stuff. Let's look at, remember we said that you are rising juniors. So we're gonna click on that rising junior course contract. Okay, so everybody go ahead and do that, because this is where you're actually gonna start filling in, selecting classes. All right, so this is the course contract. We're going to submit this today, all right? The first thing that's going to be asked of you is to please include your email, all right? So we want the email address that you check, okay? As young adults, as rising juniors, you got to get used to checking your emails if you're not already used to doing it. And I know you guys get a lot of stuff, but again, part of adulting is knowing how to filter out. So you'll get important information. Sometimes it's time sensitive, so you want to check your email. Put an email address that you know that you are going to check, whether it's your CUSD email address or your personal email address, okay? The second thing you'll notice here is some links. There's a link here for summer school. So it is a little early for you to make those decisions. And in fact, I would suggest that you actually do the pre-registration maybe after you meet with your counselor. So once you have that credit check meeting, that's a good time for you to sit with your counselor and talk about what you might want to take in the summer. But if you just wanted to get information about the dates of summer school and some other information about it, you could click on that link, okay? Next really important piece that we don't want you to make an error with is your ID number. Each of you has a student ID number. Please make sure that you indicate it correctly. If you make a mistake on that number, we can't pair this with you. And that means you don't get the classes that you want, okay? So we've told students in previous classes, if in fact you're not sure, take your ID card out and take a look at it. We want to make sure that you have the right ID number in that spot.
So now's the time when you have your iPad out. Now you can start filling out this form as we're going through that. So we're giving you the information, but now you can start going through it line by line. If you have any questions when we get to that, you can raise your hand, you can ask that question. And the hopes is that we can get something submitted today that you're working with, and then you can go back and edit it based on the parent presentation tonight or any other research you do on any of the electives or courses that are offered there. Another important thing, last name, first name. Sounds easy, sounds simple, but you'd be amazed with how many students flip that and they do their first name, last name. So if your first name starts with an O and you place that for your last name column, and your first name really, starts with a different letter, it might find its way in my stack because I service students OO through SI rather than the true counselor stack. So again, make sure you do that correctly. Last name, first name, because that's how they're sorted and they're going to be placed with counselors so that it's not misplaced and not unable to locate it when you come to meet with your counselor. All right. We do ask for a telephone number. We use this on occasions over the summer. There might be a conflict with different things. A big one that I always work with students is I might have some siblings, and I know it's important for them to have a similar start. But for one of them, they both wanted a 0 period, and we're only offering a 0 period that one of them can have. Maybe they're in honor or they're in freshman English, and we have no freshman English for 0 period. The sibling is a junior. We do have a 0 period schedule for them. So I might contact them and say, you know what? I know you both need a similar start, but there's no way I can get your sibling into a 0 period. Are you willing to have? Is it a problem if you go a 1 through 6? So those are some of the conversations that we like to call over the summer if we can. Not always can we, but we like to resolve some of those situations before you come back in August and we have some issues that we have to deal with then.
Okay, so make sure we've got your number. All right, I have an IEP or a 504 plan. If you do not know what that means you check none, okay? And if you have either one of those, you know who you are and you would check it, okay? Now, this next question is important, not because it is binding by any means. I mean, after all, you guys are only in your second semester of sophomore year. You may not know exactly what you want to do in the future. However, hopefully you have some idea. And this helps us to prompt the conversation with you when we meet with you one-on-one. So we're asking, are you preparing for military or going straight to the workforce? Are you preparing to go to a 2-year college? Are you thinking mostly about going to a 4-year college? Are you an IB diploma candidate student? Are you thinking about doing athletics? You may check multiple of these, okay? You may be a student who says, Ms. Mitchell, I think I want to go to a 4-year college. However, I don't want to rule out the community college. I've heard a lot of really good things about it and I could save money. Then check them both. It's fine. But how this helps me is if you check 4-year college, but then I look at your form and I realize that you're not planning to go into a 2nd year of a language or a 3rd year of a recommended language, then that's going to prompt the conversation for me to say, hey, you said that you're interested in 4-year college. Do you understand that most schools recommend that you take a 3rd year or higher? Okay, that's the reason we ask that question, because after you guys fill this out and submit it, before we meet with you one-on-one, your counselor has an opportunity to look at what you've selected so that we can know what we want to talk about with you, okay? So select those to the best of your ability based on what you're thinking right now.
And it stretches beyond just a course selection process. I want to make sure you don't miss out on any opportunity. So if you check military, I know during career day, they come and give the ASVAB. That would be an important test if you had any interest in the military that you'd be available for. I know we run an NCAA night here, sports eligibility night for college. I know if you check this, I want to make sure that you have that information so that you can attend that NCAA night and get information from college coaches and athletic directors from the colleges that can help guide you through that as well.
All right, so let's move on so we get to the actual course selections. If you're going to do a sport, please list the team that you want to participate with. This is not an outside activity. This is not club, but this is actual CHS. It helps us just to know what your early release schedule might look like, depending on the sport that you select, okay? And then,
yes or no?
What's that?
Do we want to go yes or no?
I think for time, we probably go no,
Okay.
Okay? This last question is asking, I am applying to be a full diploma candidate in the IB program. Now, if you click yes, okay, this is a smart form. If you click yes to that, because there were some students who knew that they were trying to do that, this is going to take you to a form that's specific for IB. You're still going to make your course selections, but it's going to take you to a planning form. That planning form is going to, and we can click on it really quickly just so they can see it. We're not going to spend time filling it out because for the sake of time, and the majority of you sound like you're not necessarily pursuing that, but I want you to see. It's going to ask you some questions that are very specific to how your plan is going to be created. So you will work along with our IB coordinator. You will get more information about this on the IB planning night this Thursday. But it's going to ask you some questions about some requirements that you're going to fulfill and when you're going to fulfill them. It's going to ask you specific questions about when you're going to be taking your HL, your higher level, as well as your standard level courses, SLs and HLs. So it's very specific to students who are thinking of going into the IB program, okay? For the sake of time, we're not going to fill this part out, okay, right now. You're going to do this, though, on your own because, again, you can edit this form. We're going to go ahead and go back.
Yeah, but what I would recommend is when you're attending, because it's virtual, you'll have this at home. Open this up when you're at the IB meeting on Thursday. Open this up, and if you're, have some interest in pursuing that, you can go through and you can fill this form out as you're getting that information from the IB informational night as well. And there'll probably be most likely some questions and answers at the end as well, where you can get some additional assistance on filling out this form if that's what you're choosing to do.
Okay. We're going to go back. We're going to rewind the clock, and we're going to say no to that question. And that's going to take you to the general form that everyone fills out for your courses for next year. We want you to do this along with us, okay? And it's okay to ask questions as we go. I know there were a couple of questions, but they were kind of specific, but they may be appropriate at this time, okay? First question is your start time, okay? Now, since most of you are sitting in a 6th period class, I doubt that many of you have a 0. Does anybody have a 0? Anybody have a 0 period class? Nobody? Okay, that doesn't surprise me at all because you've got a 6. Some students want a 0 period class. If you were wanting a 0 period, you would select 725. If you're wanting to start your day at 8:30, which is more popular, that would be a 1 through 6. Keep in mind that even if you request a 0, it's not guaranteed, okay? I could tell you if you are doing the IB diploma, you will most likely have a 0 through 6 period day, okay? All right, the first class that you're going to select is social science. Now, your social science this year is what? This year, world history. But next year, as a junior, it's going to be U.S. history. You've got some choices there. You've got regular U.S. history. You have got IB history and AP U.S. history. IB history is open to students even if they're not doing the full diploma. That's why it's on this list. So you can select that. Some students say, I'm not going to be able to do the full diploma. However, I really love history and I love the way I think it's going to be explained or explored in the IB program. So I want to sign up for IB history. You can do that. Same thing with AP history. It's a bit more of it's a faster pace. What do the IB and the AP history have in common? Let's see if you know the answer. Those two classes have something in common. As far as the grading, those classes are weighted, okay? Do you guys understand what that means if a course is weighted? You take a weighted course, that means that it is given an extra point in your GPA. So whereas an A is worth 4 points, if it's a weighted grade, that means an A is worth 5 points, okay? Or a B would be worth 4 points. So an IB and an AP course are weighted. They are going to be more advanced, more challenging. If history is your jam, you may want to pursue that, okay? Otherwise, you're going to go ahead and select U.S. history. So everybody make that selection, and we're going to move to your second class, okay? Now, the second class that you're choosing is English. And like the social science, you have an opportunity to take an IB or an AP English course. Again, what's the similarity between IB and AP? They're weighted, all right? Junior English isn't weighted. It's a college prep. So please keep in mind that any one of these 3 classes is appropriate for college-bound students, okay?
Did you have a question regarding the social science?
Very good question. So I think it's not on the electives chart. It would be in the course description booklet. For the course description booklet, it gives you the description of the course and also the recommended prerequisite. So this is a good question. Students often wonder, will I be successful in that class? Is there something I have to do to take the class? Quite often, they will look at your previous grade in the year before to determine if you are going to be most ready for that level of rigor, okay? So was it for English or for social science? For social science. So I think currently, and I'm going off the top of my head because I haven't looked at it in a while, I don't remember what the prerequisite is. I think it's
an A spring semester of world history, Can't remember if the English is included in that as well for US,
For US.
just the world history. So an A in the spring semester of your world history. Now, if you're sitting there and you don't have that A right now, please don't say, I can't take this course. You have pretty much the whole semester to bring it up. So you can work towards that. So don't select based on your current grade, just work towards bringing that grade up, and then have that conversation. If you fall a little short, have that conversation with your counselor as well.
Is this also about social science? Okay, we're going to get to that in just a moment, okay? All right, so you're going to make that selection. So now we've chosen your 2 classes. We've chosen 2 of the required classes. And the beauty of your junior year is you have a lot of freedom. So you're going to notice that you're going to have more room for electives, but you're going to be encouraged to still take some core classes. The next one that you're going to take is math. A lot more choices for math, aren't there? Because math depends on where you are currently. So you need to think, where am I right now? If I'm sitting in integrated math 2, then I'm most likely going to go into integrated math 3. If I'm sitting in integrated math 1, I'm going to go to 2. Some students are in math 2 and they are just, math is their thing. They love it. They really want some acceleration. A handful of students may opt to select enhanced integrated math / pre-calculus. That is not a class for everybody because it is 2 years of math in 1, quite accelerated, okay? So this is where you have to think about yourself. Think about your strengths. Think about how hard you're willing to work. Think about what's good for you overall, okay? When you start to get more choice, just realize you have to use more thought about what's good for you. Also, talk to your math teachers, okay? Quite often a student will have some choices between going into maybe an AP calculus or an AP stats class or an IB level class. Oftentimes your math teacher will be a good gauge or be able to give you some insight about your strengths and how you've done in their class to help you decide what class you want to take next. We have a few questions about math, I see. Right here, and then Theo, right here. No, you're going to choose the class based on not taking a summer school class, okay? Because right now, we don't know if that's going to happen, So we can, but that's a conversation that you'll have with your counselor. Are you thinking of doing pre-calc here this summer? Okay, all right. So that's a conversation with your counselor. Most of us are going to recommend that you really think about how accelerated you want to make your summer math courses because you need a good foundation. So again, choose your class based on the next logical class, and if you do summer school, we can always amend it, okay, to move you forward.
And what comes after math?
So math 2-3, that's where you would go into after the 2-3, yes, because you would be completing 3, and that's where you can go into the pre-calculus course.
Okay, so with that knowledge, everyone needs to go ahead and make their best selection. Again, you can edit this, so you really can't make a mistake. You can't mess up right now because you can go back and edit. So to the best of your knowledge, go ahead and select your math class. And now we have chosen 3 courses: social science, English, and math. Let's move on to science, okay? And those of you sitting over here, you can see earlier in the day, I kind of wrote it out so that you can see that we're just building like a 6-period day, all right? The next class you're going to choose is science. How many years of science do you need to graduate? 2. A year of life and a year of physical. So if you've had bio and you've got chemistry, you technically are you've met your high school graduation requirement for science. However, we're going to encourage you to take more science because our college-bound students are really encouraged to take 3 years. And you can see you've got a really wide variety of different types of science classes to take and explore. So this is where you choose a different science than what you've taken before. If you're a student who has had physical science and not chemistry, but you're wanting to go to a 4-year college, I'm going to recommend that you take chemistry, okay? Because chemistry is a college prep science that colleges would like to see. So if you've had physical science but not chemistry, chemistry in your junior year makes sense. Science question? Okay, so the question is, if a student is now in their 3rd year, so that means maybe you did like science over the summer, if this is your 3rd year of science, your counselor still might encourage you to consider a 4th year depending on your goals. That's a conversation that you'll have with him or her when you meet individually. What
So-
you would do is go ahead, Mr.
No,
Anderson.
yeah. So there really isn't an opt out on this form from science.
Yeah,
Science.
you can use the
So what you would do is choose a science in the additional section, which we'll get to later. You can put that information in there. Completed 3 years of science. Would like to take whatever class in place of science, but you have to choose a science in order to move forward with this form.
And if you scroll up just a little bit, and I would almost even say that you could also put here elective. Okay, so do you see how after you choose a science, it gives you a space here? This space is really intended for students who are not full diploma. So if you're not a full IB diploma candidate, but you're asking to take an AP or an IB science class, realize that priority is going to go to students who are full diploma because that might be a class that they need to fulfill their requirement. So for that reason, we do want to find out what's your alternate. If you're choosing an IB science class, but you're not full diploma, we're going to try to give you the class you asked for, but we really can't guarantee that you will be able to take that course. So we want to give you your alternate. That's what that line is for, okay? All right, fifth class that we're choosing now is a world language. Okay, is this a science question? Okay.
What's the third option for science?
The third option.
Oh, you mean this IB part, alternate science?
No, like IB sport exercise.
Yeah. So, for example, IB courses, IB students are going to get priority into those courses. IB sports medicine is a highly selected
Popular.
course. So it's one of our most popular courses. So the priority is going to go students who needed to that are part of IB because they needed to complete their diploma. Then it's going to go to rising seniors. Then it will go down to rising juniors, which would be your class to get into there. I can tell you this year that there were no juniors who were able to get in that class just because of space-wise. So if you select that as a rising junior, we want an alternate course because there's a great chance that you might not be able to get in that class because of space. So we want to know your second option in case you can't get in.
So maybe it would be anatomy, or maybe it would be AP biology or something like that. Make sense? Okay. All right. So world language. Now, you all know that world language actually isn't a requirement for graduation, is it? It's highly recommended that you take it because it is a requirement for four-year college-bound students. But if you don't take a language, in order to graduate, you could take what instead? An art. Good. Photography or an art class. So art, language, or a career tech ed class like audio production, stage tech, any one of those will graduate you. 2 years of language are required for college. 3 years recommended or more. So this is where you make your next selection. If you're sitting in a first-year language right now, you need to take a second-year language if you're college-bound. If you're sitting in a second-year language, you might say, yes, I've met my 2-year minimum requirement, but that's your minimum. So if you're doing well or feel like you can handle a third year, your counselor is going to encourage you to take that third year. It just opens up options and opportunities for you post-graduation, okay? Some of you may be sitting in a third-year language. Is there anybody in a third-year language right now? Okay, then you are going to be ready to potentially take a fourth year, an AP language next year, okay? And we'll scroll down, if you're not going to continue, and again, we'll have this discussion. I know I'll talk to every one of my rising juniors who is planning to not take a language next year to see what their reasons are. And if they're good reasons, we're going to find a better alternate for that class. So if you're not going to take a language, then you're going to say, you're going to check that, and you're going to click next. And that's where you're going to start choosing your electives, okay? So if you click on the drop-down menu under primary elective choice, you're going to see that long list of options, kind of like that list that we showed you on the website that had all the different electives that you could choose from. They're all right there. This is where you decide, I'm not going to take a language. However, instead, I'm going to take this elective, okay? You choose your primary choice, and then you're going to give us an alternate because, again, you have choices. If you don't take your alternates seriously, then your counselor has to do the choosing for you. So we really do try our best to give you your first or second choice. So please do spend some time thinking about what you want to take, okay?
The one thing to remember when choosing electives and the alternate, these two must be different.
Yes.
It cannot be the same choice because if you don't get into the first time with your primary, you're not going to get into as an alternate. So they must be different.
Okay, so we'll
work
get
on
you
that.
some help with that. Everybody understands that piece, right? You're choosing your elective. Okay, question about elective? Sure. On that main page, remember we were on the counseling department page. On the right-hand side, there was a CHS electives, course electives.
I can go to
You're gonna, yeah, Mr. Anderson's gonna click to that.
So,
do you see where that was?
right here.
Okay. And then the course description booklet also has details, but I think it's easier just to use that other one. Okay. All right. So we're going to keep moving on. We've chosen 5 classes. Guess what? We're at our 6th class now. And this is where you're choosing your elective. For some of you, your elective is, how many of you might be an AVID? Anybody in AVID? No AVID students? Okay. So if you were in AVID, you would choose AVID. That would be your elective. Okay. Some of you are in band. Some of you are in choir. Some of you are in yearbook. Okay. This is where you're going to put your elective choice. We want you to give an alternate. Now, I'll tell you right now, if you are in band, you will get band. But you still go ahead and we still recommend that they put their alternate choices. But don't worry about that. You might say, but I've been playing, the instrument all my life. I don't want to not play my instrument. Don't worry. Your counselor is going to, we know how to force the system to make sure that you get the band class. But it's helpful for us to have some alternates for each of our students, okay?
Same thing. Make sure that your primary alternates are different. So you're really going to be choosing 5 different elective choices if you're not taking a world language, because these cannot be the same as the previous elective choices that you chose as well. All right? Does that make sense? So we don't want you to choose the same thing you did for the world language elective in place of the world language. It needs to be something different here as well.
Okay. The last question is for any additional information. So it says AVID and IB students use this space. Really, anybody use this space to let me know something that you weren't able to add elsewhere. I'll be honest with you. You don't need to add a lot of details that are unnecessary because we're going to talk to you. But in some cases, I have an AVID student who says, Mrs. Mitchell, this form only allowed me to choose 6 classes, but I need 7 because I'm an AVID and I still need to be in band. You're absolutely right. So that's something that you would put there, okay? Can we discuss how to add band to my schedule? Or some other circumstance that I need to know, because when we meet one-on-one, I can still edit the form. I can still make changes as far as what you might need that you weren't able to do on your own.
In the back row, the science question, this is where you would put in that information for science as well. Completed 3 years of science.
Right.
Looking for an elective in place of the science class that I chose. Yep.
That's where I would go. Perfect.
Put that in there.
Okay. Once you've done that, and hopefully you guys are all doing this, you're going to go ahead and click next. There's one final statement that you're going to indicate, understanding that your placement in the courses is subject to availability and prerequisites, summer assignments. It asks that you signify that you and your parent understand this. The reason why we say you and your parent is because we want this to be a discussion that you have with your parent or guardian, okay? Don't make these decisions in isolation. Talk about it with your household. Make sure that what you're selecting makes sense for your life and for your schedule next year, okay? And then once you select that, you're going to hit submit. So everybody go ahead and submit. And you will see the magic of being able to edit. So now it's been recorded. But let's say you decide, you know what, I really want to change that elective choice that I made. You can simply click edit your response, or actually what you can do is if you go back out of this and you're back on the main page, if you go back to your Rising Junior course request form, it's going to take you right back where you were and you can still edit it. You have until when to edit this form? February 17th. Okay?
It's important to remember when you're going to edit the form, you must go all the way through to the end and hit submit once again for it to record any changes that you made.
Right.
So don't just change the English class and shut it down and think you're done. No, you have to go all the way to the end and hit submit, and then that change will be reflected on that updated form.
Question?
If you select an AP course and you don't make the grade but already submitted, what happens?
Good question. So if you select a course that at the end of the semester you don't meet the prerequisite for, and it's a required class, your counselor is going to make sure that you go into the regular class. So if you select AP history, U.S. history, and you're not prepared to go into that, based on your grade in world history, we're not going to keep you out of history because you needed to graduate. So we're going to make sure, and that's what happens in the summer. Our guidance technician is looking at prerequisites, making sure that the math that you've selected, making sure that the APs that you've selected align with what you are prepared to take, meeting those prerequisites. Good question.